Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of SJGames Live. My name's Hunter and I'm here with Eric, our convention manager, coordinator, everything with conventions, events, everything we do with events. We're going to be interviewing, it's our summer interview series. If you missed last week, we interviewed Sean Punch about GURPS. This week we're going to be talking about Eric and conventions. Before we get started though, I did want to mention our GURPS 2021 PDF challenge is live right now on Kickstarter. That was what that interview with Sean was about last week. We just cracked another two stretch goals actually, and we're working our way towards another two. And it's very low cost, barrier to entry. If you want to check out that and maybe find out more information, we did an interview with Sean last week about it. And that is, we'll link it in the comments below. But this week we're going to be talking conventions, your specialty.
Well, yeah, especially this year, we've had basically 18 months, almost 2 years worth of a dry spell, attending conventions physically in person. We've learned a lot. I think going through COVID, we've all been, frustrated, stuck at home. Unlike a lot of previous events that cause people to have to stay at home, this one was not just stay at home, but stay at home and stay away from other people in general. And that's not what our industry is about. Our industry is about getting out, seeing people, doing things together. So that was challenging. The virtual FNORDCon series we did was actually really well received. We had, last time, Len had a blast. He was doodling up things right in front of folks. It was just like being at a booth. Mm-hmm. But what we found was that it made it accessible to a lot more audience. We picked up a lot of folks that told us afterwards. A lot of the feedback was, I suffer from one of two Ds, disability or distance, that stop people from attending conventions physically. And with the virtual conventions, those go away. So if you have a fear, a natural inborn fear of being in large places, lots of people around and stuff, but you enjoy gaming.
The anxiety, fear, stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of folks. There's also folks that have, kids that they have to be home with. You can't go away for 3 days to attend a convention. So we got a lot of positive feedback on those. And I think when you look at the organizers for Gen Con and Origins, they saw the same thing. So the industry as a whole, through accident, through a bad thing, has probably learned a lesson that could actually bring our attendance for conventions up going forward. Maybe not as many face-to-face, but a lot of folks who didn't have that accessible to them in the past are now going to have that accessible to them going forward.
Yeah, Gen Con was really pushing, especially this year, that pop-up thing as well, like doing it more in game stores, because that was something they were kind of noodling with right before, I think, 2019, and then 2020 was kind of off. The stores were also closed, but they were really pushing stores, and now you see that pop-up happening again. And I mean, this whole transition for you to this position happened during this. This was like you it wasn't like, oh man, I'm planning events and then everything shuts down. It's like everything shuts down. It's like, oh, now you need to figure out events.
Well, and for this one in particular, we generally have a down season of about 3 months between the ending of December, January timeframe, once Pax Unplugged is done and stuff. We go till April or May before we see planning, serious planning for the next convention set. And this one was interesting because we didn't know whether we were going to be doing anything this year. We weren't planning for it.
Yeah.
And so we were planning along the lines of doing virtual stuff, and then things started to open up. Things started to look a little bit better. And right as we started thinking about that, Alex got this wonderful position at Amiga. Yeah. And I get a call from Susan middle of the night. Hey, are you around? I'm like, yeah, I'm here. And so we start talking, and she's like, yeah, we want you to take over conventions. And my, of course, fear was, I haven't organized an event of that size since doing stuff at Sebring for Audi. I mean, it's been 15 years.
It's been a little while.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done anything like this.
You said that Seabrings.
Yeah, I said Sebring. I knew where it was.
That'll date where we were.
I remember where I was when.
Yes.
So that was kind of it was different, but organizing events is all about making the experience live for people, making the experience good and valid for people. At the same time, there's a cost proposition for it too. I mean, it has to be worthwhile for the company to go do it. And when you start looking at Origins and Gen Con this year, both of which are cut to half attendance. So
totally valid on their part. We completely understand.
No, we want
but you definitely have to factor that in.
And in reaction to that, also we have increased our backroom size. So our meeting room now can have a few more people in it for our private meetings that we normally do, but they're not stuck around a 4-foot table anymore. They're going to be spread out, and we're going to have air handlers back there and stuff.
Awesome.
So the demo floor will be the same thing. 2 years ago, Hunter, you and I were running Deadly Doodles.
Oh yeah.
12-foot tables back to back,
and they were
three deep
games.
Yeah, I mean we had to have at some point had maybe as many as 60, 70 people in the booth. And this year we're really only going to be set up for 3 or 4 Car Wars tables. We hope another product that is supposed to be coming out by December, and then 1 dice table. And the dice table, we're still playing around. We may still have to put up a barrier between the demo person and the people playing.
Yeah, we're still working out all the safety precautions. We want to make sure everyone feels safe. We also just want to follow the stuff that they're putting forth, but everything's a little bit still. We're working everything out still.
Right. Well, and again, we can do things by the numbers, but if people aren't comfortable, it's not going to be a productive booth.
Yeah.
So we want to default to fewer people in the booth, fewer things going on, which with half the attendance should be easier to manage.
Yes.
But by the same token, from a cost standpoint, that's fewer people you're introducing your product to. That's less opportunity.
I think for me, when I think of a Gen Con or an Origins to have capacity, because when we're talking Gen Con and Origins, these are like the biggest shows.
Yes.
Gen Con especially. PAX is probably past up Origins by now, but like Gen Con especially is enormous.
Yeah.
And when I think half capacity, like I think for some people they're going to think half capacity and they're not going to understand what half capacity is, because I think what half capacity is going to actually look like, it's going to look like a full convention.
Right.
It's just going to be a little more spread out.
Right.
You're not going to be running into people with backpacks in front of you. Like you're not going to be stacked like sardines. You're just going to be a little bit looser. It's still going to look really full. So if you're someone who gets anxious around people right now and stuff like that, I wouldn't expect walking in and being like, I'm super spaced out.
No, not at all.
If you've ever been to a theme park or something like that on a day that's like down maybe in the summer, like a big theme park like a Disney or Six Flags or something like that, it may be like a very low capacity that day because it's like, oh, it's like an off day, a day of the week, and you'll still be around a good amount of people on those days. Like even a slow day for Disney feels pretty up.
I think what we're going to see at Gen Con, and they've told us, we've been going back and forth with the organizers for both Origins and Gen Con, and a lot of the precautions they want us to do is to make sure that, one, we're not doing show exclusives, so we don't have people rushing the doors at opening time.
Which is definitely a change for Gen Con. That's been a kind of a push for people in the past. I think it's good to take that back for a year especially.
I think it's going to make it for a much more relaxed environment. I think where you're going to see fewer people is the aisles. We're being coached to make sure that our presentations are more focused in the booth rather than out of the booth.
That's a great change regardless. I'm so tired of shows leaking out of booths.
You're not going to, what we hope is that this year you're not going to have lines of people stacked up around the booth to try and get into the booth. Where the half capacity is going to be present is you're going to have these nice wide hallways between the booths. You're going to be able to see both sides of the hallway as you walk down. So you're not going to be as stressed, oh, well, there's a whole line of people here. I need to get in this line. I don't know what it's for, but I need to get in this line because if I don't, I'm going to miss out what's inside there. And I think it's going to be more impromptu events. I think you're going to see, like the list of events that I've seen so far is actually, they're still asking for more.
Good.
Which last time, by now, the event list submissions were done. If you didn't have your event in there, you weren't going to have one. So I think we're going to see a venue that's going to have all of the events you wanted to do, all the games you wanted to do, you're just not going to be fighting as hard to get into them.
Sure. Sure. I want to mention if you have any questions in chat while we're doing this, we're going to be going for about an hour here. Towards the end of the hour, if you have any questions, Jimmy's actually behind the camera. Thank you, Jimmy. He's taking up for Brandon today. Brandon's also here, so I guess this is just the training day for Jimmy. But he'll be sending us chat questions. If you have anything, we'll try to answer them at the end if we haven't covered it already by the end of it.
So if your question doesn't get answered, you'll know it's Jimmy.
It's Jimmy's fault. So like, there's going to be some changes, and this isn't just for Gen Con, obviously.
No.
This is Gen Con Origins. Pretty much all the conventions are changing in this regard, at least for a year. I mean, obviously, we'll see how it goes. It may end up with next year, you'll have a lot of new release stuff like that. I know for this year, this is not only helping the crowds, it's helping us because this may be a topic. This is a topic we've covered on the Daily Illuminator on social media. I might actually do an interview with someone here also because I'd like to cover it some more. Is the production woes of board gaming and actually getting games shipped over here. So getting new releases out this fall is going to be tough, not just for us. It's going to be tough for everybody across the board. So I think having a convention where you can play the stuff that's out you may have missed during the pandemic. And get hyped about the stuff that's coming, but just get excited for it, not necessarily having it in hand, but getting to play it. Still something unique.
We have, I won't go into the numbers, but we're going to have packages, well, we're trying to put together packages now, which is everything for the last 18 months that you didn't get a chance to go to the store and pick up, that you either you got to order it online or you missed. And a lot of us, if we don't have the friendly local game store experience, we don't pick up the game. Mm-hmm. The industry has moved a lot towards Kickstarter, but I think that we still have a good, solid relationship with our retailers. And our games in particular, I think, do very well when seen in person, and maybe don't do as well without that personal touch. And so one of the things we're looking at is when you look at the booth layout, unlike last year where the retail section is basically just a whole bunch of shelves and you go look, we'll help you out. This year, in order to keep things moving, we are going to have like, the little footsteps on the floor, and we'll have a way to go through.
Sure.
You'll get to see everything, but it won't be as random.
It won't be free form. It'll be more guided through, like a guided tour of a booth.
And the idea there is that we don't want people stacking up. We don't want people who aren't necessarily comfortable with somebody pushing in against them to go look at this next product. We want people to be able to see everything. But we've added another glass case, so we'll have all of the last 18 months releases will all be broken out in the glass case, out of their boxes with all the components laid out, so everybody will be able to see what we've missed.
That's great. And if you haven't been to Gen Con especially, our glass case is pretty notable. It's a very big wall full of all of our new releases and the releases from the past year and a lot of upcoming stuff. We preview a lot of stuff in that glass case and update it pretty much all the time. So it's really cool. So having even a bigger one, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and last time our big thing was this, Car Wars is coming.
Sure.
And so we had all of the pre-production samples that we had done in-house of Car Wars layouts and stuff.
And now we'll actually have
stuff. The real thing.
Yeah, just getting closer. It is getting closer, folks. We're really, really excited. Right now, it's just waiting on stuff at this point. We're waiting on those ships.
Well, the ships are on the sea, and we don't know right now when that's going to be. Whether that's going to be October, is it going to be November, is it going to be December? And because we kickstarted it, we want to make sure everybody understands that the Kickstarters are going to get filled first. Yeah. We're not bringing 50 copies to Gen Con to sell.
No.
We're bringing 4 copies to play. People are going to get a chance to actually play it and see it. And those that have Kickstarters waiting will know that they're getting theirs first.
Yeah, and we'll have more. People have been asking us generally Car Wars content when. When it gets a little bit closer is pretty much what we're doing. Like we have videos on how to play. We have videos on the stuff, but right now we don't want to just like start putting out tons of that stuff now when people can't get their hands on it, because then the question is just like, when do I get it? When do I get it? When do we get it? So now we're kind of holding off on it, but we will have more content as that gets a little bit closer, as we get that cleared up.
And that's not unique to us in the industry.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm not trying to say woe is us. Woe is everybody. Because it's just shipping stuff, guys. We'll do it. I'll try to set up an interview where we can talk about that a little more in detail, because I think people might be actually interested in that a little bit. But yeah, that's a talk for another day. But you got thrown into the fryer here. Like let's be real. You were tossed in a weird time. You're having to organize these cons. Is it all stress? Are you having some fun with it? Are you actually having a good time? It's just, what's the balance?
Well,
feel
there's the stress right now is things like we're being asked for advertising, to be submitted
Sure.
now, and we still haven't got booth assignments. So a lot of when people don't understand when something as big as Gen Con says we're moving from this date to this date, it's not just a matter of, okay, take all the project plan dates and move them back. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of stuff, print buying, advertising, all of the things that go into getting the presence known, all has to be adjusted.
Yes.
And so they're even running into this. I mean, we have submission dates for advertising for Gen Con, which you always have your booth number in there.
Yes.
We don't have a booth number yet. So
Even I didn't know that was happening.
yeah,
That's
so
unfortunate.
that's the type of stress that I'm looking at. Everything else, I mean, everybody at SJGames has participated in conventions.
Oh, yeah.
We've all built booths. We've all done. I mean, that's part of working at a smaller company, is that you do what's needed of you when it's needed.
Yep.
So that part I'm not really as stressed about. Where I get stressed right now is I have a project plan. I try and follow that project plan, and it's not A, B, C, D, it's A, D, E, J, Z. And then, by the way, as somebody was asking about how do we get our booth assignment? Well, in the past, there's kind of a bidding process where you say, okay, well, I had this booth last year. Is the one closer to the door available this year?
Sure.
And the organizers say, well, yeah, it is. So do you want to move over? Great, awesome. This year, it's more, we're assigning everything.
Sure.
And if you have a problem with that, we'll have a Zoom call and you can talk about it. But we haven't seen the assignments yet.
Yeah, that's it's getting close. I mean, to give you an idea, like if you're going to Gen Con this year, right now, so Gen Con got moved this year back a little bit. It's usually in August. This year it's in September.
Yeah.
But we're already in July. Normally our Gen Con stuff we're handling back in May and April. Like so that's how tight it is. Not saying bad on Gen Con, but it's just that's how everything is up in the air so bad right now. Like they didn't even know if a show was going to be able to happen earlier this year. So now it's like everything's playing catch up on all angles for us, for them.
Well, when you push a date back for something like Gen Con a month, and you basically step on other events that are going on, well, you're intimately involved with those other events. Gen Con is not a standalone thing. The organizers work with Gamma, who are the organizers for Origins, and there's a lot of back and forth that goes on with these things.
Sure.
So when you push something through like that, it's not just a simple flow through. Everything has to be redone, and things that you were trying to do in time to have a deliverable for the next convention available now isn't.
Yeah.
Or in this particular case, we've actually taken it from being Origins first and then Gen Con to Gen Con first and then Origins.
That's completely flipped the script on everything. I mean, and like you said, it's not just adjusting one schedule.
Yeah.
It's throwing every schedule off, flipping the order of the schedule. We got a graffics team that's working on stuff. They have no idea. They can't make ads for us. They can't do the print ad buying and stuff like that. It's just like, okay, I guess it just has happened. We gotta worry about playing the booth.
I mean, one nice thing about it is my wife and I drive to Gen Con and Origins in our Rialta. So this time, instead of going up to Ohio, then over to Columbus, and then on our vacation, this time we're going to, we're going to Indianapolis first, then we're going to Columbus. So maybe we do go to Newfoundland. If Canada opens up,
Yeah,
we'll see.
why not? We'll see. So you talked about some changes at the booth, kind of spacing it out a little bit, having people going through more predictable path. Are there any other safety changes or things like that you've been exploring? Or
so the organizers for the events, both Origins and Gen Con and PAX Unplugged, they're going to have safety screenings of their own. It may change, but the last I heard, they're going to have temperature checks, and they won't be asking for vaccination records. Nobody's being asked for that, but they are. People are being asked. Are you sneezing? Are you coughing? Have you?
Sure.
The normal questionnaire. Which, by the way, if you plan on attending an event that's more than 50 people between now and, I don't know, 2025.
Yes.
I would plan on, if you don't feel well, call the organizers, get a refund.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be out. Nobody, con crud in the past, which for people like us was something that was a normal. You come
And
back
it
with a
sucked.
sniffle or whatever.
It still was not fun. Like I getting con crud with this going on. I
Right.
don't want that.
Con crud with the possibility of lethality, nobody wants. Before, people lived with it. It was just something we dealt with. No more. If you don't feel well, don't go.
Yeah.
And if you get there and you're in the hotel and you don't feel well, bank your day's event. Do something else. Pop online. The hotels are going to have pretty good Wi-Fi this time because there's going to be fewer people using it.
Yeah.
So maybe attend an event from the hotel room if you don't feel well. There's nothing wrong with that.
No. Just it's just not responsible anymore at this
Right.
point. So yeah, I mean, there are definitely some things we've been talking a lot about Gen Con. We're just picking that out. I think 'cause it's the
just
most
because
recent.
it's the next one to hit.
But since we're talking about different shows, we have mentioned Gen Con Origins. What are our plans, I guess, going forward? Because I know we've got some that are already planned out, some that are kind of like in the works, but we don't know. But we can talk about some of them for sure.
So Gen Con is the first one. There was talk about going to PAX West. PAX West has been a very strong convention for us for years. And we've been a participant.
All the PAXs have been awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. This time around, because of Washington State's restrictions, it wasn't going to make sense for us.
Sure.
So it reaches a point to where the size of the show, the number of people you can move through the booth, and the exposure you can get just doesn't make financial sense.
Well, for us to travel, because it's a West Coast show, we're having to go farther. Things are going to be a little more expensive for us to get there. So, but yeah, it's just some things aren't going to balance out. They're being safe though, good on them, but it doesn't work for us.
Absolutely, and we've talked with them, and we will be attending next year.
Sure.
So it's not like we're not doing that anymore. It's just this particular year doesn't make sense for us. We are doing Gen Con, which is September 16th to the 19th.
Okay.
Unlike previous years in August.
Which it'll probably go back. We're not 100% sure. We'll see how this go. These may change next year back to the normal time. They may not. Maybe they are successful in their current slot. We'll see. A lot of the time, one thing to keep in mind is a lot of the stuff is happening after school's back, which is a big thing for some of these shows. They don't necessarily want to happen when school is in because it makes it harder for people to get. Like you mentioned, kids can't come out for you can't just drop everything and be out there for 4 days to game.
Right. Well, and I think that Ohio in particular, I think Ohio is a year-round state school. So September, October timeframe hasn't been a problem for them in the past.
Okay.
I think with the changes that we're seeing in our society, I think a lot more people are homeschooling now. I think a lot more people are going to be year-round school rather than just the typical, I have the summer off. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see those later dates pick up and be more productive, and having Gen Con and Origins 2 weeks apart instead of a month apart will lead to better attendance.
We'll see.
So we'll see. We are doing PAX Unplugged, which is December 2nd to the 12th in Philadelphia. Based on current weather patterns, I'm kind of hoping it'll be a mild early Christmas. We'll see.
We'll see. It's about my birthday. When they added PAX Unplugged and it went all the way into December because you mentioned before there's kind of a convention season and there was kind of this cap to the convention season. It was always like right before November. BGG Con, if you went to that, was kind of like the end of it. We didn't always go to that con, but that was kind of like the end. And then PAX Unplugged came a few years ago and it was like, oh, we're going to December, and I was like, You've uncorked the holy month. We'll have year-round conventions.
Yeah, and I think we'll get to that. And I think with the virtual conventions doing as well as they are, I think us adding FNORDCon in April, which will be our next physical attending one.
Yes.
I think we're going to see more year-round type conventions. I think we'll see a lot more of the smaller conventions, the smaller regional type conventions, will go to the hybrid model where people who have moved away but still want to do things with their friends locally,
old-timers and stuff like that.
We'll be able to drop into those conventions now without having to travel, for a day out and a day back.
I think it'll help a lot with the holiday cons too, because there's a lot of people doing cons around like July 4th. Some people even started doing them on like Easter, stuff like that, just to have like fun events for people that wanted to do stuff over those extended weekends that they aren't doing something else.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were digital this year, and I think that was really cool because it's just like you wake up on a day that you have off because it's just an extra day off, and you're like, oh, there's a convention happening. Let's just hang out and play some games.
And with so many of us working at home now, being able to drop into a con for a couple of hours in between meetings, and maybe get some inspiration for something that you wanted to do, and then come away with a fresh set of ideas for your work, and breaking up that work day, I think is fantastic. I think that's leading to a lot more creativity. I know, being an HR guy, from the past as well, anytime you can take a typical 8-hour workday and maybe stretch the day a little bit, but put something of interest in a personal fashion in the middle of it, the whole day becomes more productive.
Yeah. If you're working 8 straight hours, there's a problem.
Well, I mean, so I have plenty of gray. You all know that I grew up in I worked at McDonnell Douglas on a great big campus, and I did the 9-hour days, 15-minute breaks, and a half-hour scheduled lunch, and you had a lunch period. It was like an extension of college. That work environment accomplished what it needed for the time.
Sure.
But we are a more creative society now. So I think work at home has probably helped us quite a bit. And I think, conventions, having something at a tail end of a week where you're dragging anyway, it's a good thing.
Yeah. We do have a few questions, guys. I want to let you know we are getting those on here. I will cover those in just a little bit. We will start diving into those. But want to mention, so we pretty much that's pretty much all the shows this year. We're not going to go too much into next year, except saying, like you said, we are going to go back to physical for NordCon. We're really excited about that. That doesn't mean digital for NordCon's going away. We'll still be doing virtuals. So if you can't make it down here, we'll still be doing those as well. To be like you said, the kind of back and forth. We're able to do physical. We'll also have hybrid stuff with the physical one that we're doing. Plus, we'll have virtual for NordCons as well. So those have just been really fun and successful for us. So we really want to give people the opportunity to interact with us.
There was 2 overwhelming responses that I got from our last virtual FNORDCon. First off, the emphasis on I can't attend a physical show. And for the first time, I was able to feel like I was in the room with Len Panetta and got to see the drawings, got to participate in that part of the program, which they were never able to do before. Was phenomenal. And we got that from a lot of folks. So that was kind of neat. The other one was the later evening engagement. When we do a convention, we figure people are on our time frame.
Sure.
And even from a U.S. standpoint, Pacific, East Coast time, for a convention, there's not that much of a difference, really. 3 hours difference between them, not that big a deal, especially on a Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
But when you start talking about people from Australia, people from the UK, people from Germany, being able to attend a convention with Len Panetta and being able, or Steve, and not have to make a flight, not have to travel halfway across the world,
not have jet lag.
all of a sudden, these things, they open wide open. So we're going to embrace that, but we're also going to look at maybe doing some after-hours stuff. So we've got some staff that are like, hey, what about doing something that starts at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock? If it doesn't cost us a whole lot, if it doesn't actually take away from the show to have somebody stay after and do a Deadly Doodles at midnight.
Yeah, and I was running we ran late events. And that was perfect for me because I'm more of an evening guy anyway. So it was like I ran the Deadly Doodle stuff at 8 o'clock, and we had better attendance on that one. I was like, great, yeah, that's awesome.
Exactly.
Have fun. I think that's part of it with conventions too. Even with people that prefer that are from the U.S. or from our own time zones doing these events. Like my favorite stuff at conventions, during the day I'm usually working and taking pictures or running demos or whatever the case may be at a convention. And then my gaming's at night. I'm playing stuff after the show closes. And a lot of people, I think, you'll go past, especially Origins, I think has one of the better open gaming areas. You'll go, sure, they'll be gaming during the day, but at night, it's just stacked. That's where everyone's at.
It's where I got to play Civilization with the with the guys at FFG
And-
like 3 years in a row.
Yeah,
It's
and-
like, hey, this
And he's still playing today. No.
yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, you're the guy who has the mega sieve
Yes,
box.
I have the Mega Civ and used to get it out on the table once a quarter at my store Wonko's.
You somehow did. I barely get TI4 out like once a year right now. So the fact that you're able to get mega sieve out once a quarter, that's an accomplishment.
It was good, and
It's fun.
it's neat because
That's a perfect convention type game.
Yeah.
Maybe not to take to a convention, but to like play at a convention because it's a thing you have a certain group that you probably play with. You're like, I meet these people at this con. I've met a ton of people that have that particular game where they're like, we take it to a con, we play it at this con because it's the only time I get to see them, all these 4 people every year, and we'll play it once and that's it, and then next year we play it again. And
well, Mega Civ is 18 people. I mean,
here's my 18 best friends, and we meet this
oh
one
my
con.
God,
That'd be a fun night though. That'd be a fun weekend actually. That'd be your entire con.
yeah,
Maybe not Mega Civ, but that type of game.
yeah, exactly.
So I think we kind of covered a lot of the stuff here. I think I'm going to go to some of our comments. Dive in. Is there anything you wanted to dive in before I went to some of the questions?
As Jimmy pointed out, I owe Len an apology because I butchered his last name again.
You got it. To be fair, you got it right in the first one. I didn't want to mention it.
Right.
The first time you said it, you got it right. I'm like, sweet. And then
Yeah, no, it's Len Peralta.
Peralta, yes.
And he is one of the nicest guys you will ever meet.
Yeah, he's a super great guy.
And I think for the most part, all of our artists are.
Absolutely.
I think that's why Steve deals with them. I mean,
yeah, we wouldn't be working with them if they were jerks. Right. That's the thing. We do have a few questions and just comments in general. Phil Kyle said he's excited to play with other people. We don't have a local shop within 100 miles. Unfortunate, but we thank you for still supporting our stuff if you can get through Warehouse 23, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate all that support. I have a collection to play with fans, but can't wait for another FNORDCon. Well, fortunately, we got that coming. We got to cover that during the show. We definitely got FNORDCon physical coming back.
Yep.
If you can't make it there, though, there's still virtual events with FNORDCon and FNORDCon virtual later in the year as well. We'll be doing both and hybrid events going forward. They've been very successful for us.
Yep.
Super fun to run, I think, overall. The Discord's really popping. If you haven't had a chance to go to a FNORDCon, seriously, give it a shot.
Yeah.
We got to do Ben's painting series, which we're actually going to turn into an actual series.
It was so good.
Yeah, and we're going to do it for SJGames Live once a month or so. The schedule hasn't really lined up during the summer. He's off for certain times, and we have other stuff that we need to cover. But probably around August, we're going to start that series. So keep an eye out for that. We got all sorts of minis to paint. We got Ogre miniatures.
God, yeah.
We got Car Wars minis. We got all sorts of stuff. So we're excited about starting that up for FNORDCon. But FNORDCon, just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Paul Pappas, given the apparently inevitable incoming onslaught of Delta and other variants, do you think conventions will be forced to stay virtual longer than previously expected? Parentheses hoped.
So, I think that attendance is probably not going to get back to where we think of something like a Gen Con or an Origins or a PAX West or PAX Unplugged. I don't think convention centers are going to get back to the 75,000 population anytime soon. And I think that it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I've gotten both vaccinations in, and I'm actually donating blood every other month so I can track my antibodies to make sure that I'm strong on the antibodies. So if you don't, my big thing, donate blood if you can. It makes a big difference. And right now, at least, they're testing for antibodies, so you can confirm that your vaccination is indeed on board and working.
Yeah, you don't need a booster or anything like that yet.
Exactly. So I think that's important. Do I think we'll get back to fully physical only conventions? I think those are done. I think we're going to have some hybrid nature in conventions going forward, and if it isn't readily apparent, I think that's a positive thing. I think it's a real good thing.
Yeah, I think having some digital element. I think they've been the thing is, you kind of seen Gen Con and other bigger conventions try to work towards that in the past. They'd make steps, but they never made a full move towards that. They were like, here's this kind of side event, here's this other thing.
Right.
And this just kind of forced their hand to kind of say, okay, we're investing in this. We're actually going to put the money behind it.
So our goal with FNORDCon, and because that's a convention that's under our control, we can control how many people we set it up for. We can control what events are happening a lot closer. We can plan on having a hybrid event where you can be running Deadly Doodles on screen with virtual customers and physical people in the same event. That's kind of the holy grail. I mean, that being able to take a convention and turn it into a virtual convention that involves physical and virtual elements in the same event means everybody can attend regardless of where they're at, what level of anxiety they have around other people, or what's going on in their part of the world. So I think for our size convention, hybrid conventions are going to leave a much better experience. I think for Gen Con and Origins and PAX, the bandwidth isn't available in those halls to do that type of thing. So you're going to have, the hybrid convention is going to look differently for the big events. It's going to be a virtual element that's running at the same time as the physical element. They won't necessarily be linked.
Yeah, and as far as like actually if these conventions are going to for sure happen, I mean, we can't see the future. We're hoping everything's looking in line for that. Obviously, if depending on how the Delta variants go, if whatever states do, we kind of have to just follow that.
Yeah,
We don't have we're not fighting any of that stuff. If Indiana decides to shut down, then obviously
We're done.
We're virtual. That's just how it is. So everyone wants to be safe. They'll be keeping on it. States are probably not going to be super immediate to jump and close down again at this point, but we'll see. I mean, it is getting a little crazy out there. Make sure everybody, if you're watching, you want to go to conventions, be safe, get your vaccinations for sure. But like, we'll see how it goes. We can't see the future on that, unfortunately.
And I can tell you, as the facilities manager for Steve Jackson Games, Steve was one of the first companies that I dealt with in Austin that was willing to literally just flip the switch, send people home, and say, "Hey, look, we're closing the office down. We are not going to take chances with this." I came in, I set up, cleaning stations and sanitizing stations. We were ahead of the curve because Steve wanted us to be there.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it will be any different with the convention front.
Yeah.
If something happens in Delta variant and we wind up with even the chance that our vaccinations are not valid, and that our attendance isn't going to be permissible, pack up the crate and send it back.
Yeah, we'll try it again.
Yep.
We keep trying. Any chance of this? I didn't get the name. Sorry. Any chance we might see SJ presence at UConn? I don't believe so. I don't even know UConn particularly.
There's several conventions that in the past we've sent support to, and I would say if you are the organizer for that convention, by all means, our website is back open. As far as convention attendance, you can submit convention support and say, "Hey, I've got a convention." And we'll ask you how many people you anticipate, what type of convention it is, what type of support you're looking for. I know I just sent a care package to. Is it Englishtown, New Jersey? It's a library in New Jersey that's doing a full week convention with limited attendance because of their thing. But we sent them out care packages to help the library run their convention.
And we try to do that with a lot of smaller conventions. We'll send out stuff to add to your demo shelves and your game area, your open gaming and stuff like that. And if we have any MIBs in the area, like volunteers that generally go, they're probably already going to your convention, so there's probably already events in some way going on there if there's a presence. If not, probably won't physically be able to be there, but we'll be able to support the con for sure.
Absolutely.
Paul Papaskin, do you have health safety protocol in place to determine if you should cancel attendance to a scheduled live con, or is it on the fly, case by case? Sounds more like on the fly, case by case at this point.
For us, having an HR background, we do have a protocol in place, which basically, anytime we're getting ready to make a trip, we're gonna all talk. We usually talk 2 weeks out and then 1 week out with everybody who's going, and kind of finalize the plans, make sure we've got a good document to work through. Who's going to be there for what things. We've got retailer meetings beforehand, so we've got some staff that go out early. Myself and my wife will be there probably the Monday before to make sure that any construction needs are met.
Gotcha.
So we will have those meetings 2 weeks out and then 1 week out. And then, of course, the day of, if anybody is not feeling well enough to fly, they're not going to fly.
Sure.
And that's not something that, they don't have to call me at 4:00 in the morning and say, hey, I'm not feeling well. It's a natural thing. If you're not feeling well, you're not going.
Yeah, absolutely. So sorry, health and safety in terms of us, absolutely.
There's no margin for error.
I was thinking like overall, but yeah, you're
Yeah.
exactly right. That's probably what they're more likely what they're asking.
And for the booth, we plan on wearing masks now. We have sanitizing stations that we're getting from the organizers for the events to have at each corner of our venue and anywhere where there's contact. I don't think we're going to be doing cash sales this year. I think it's going to be all credit so that people will be able to swipe and go or click and go. I don't think we'll have a cash box, which that'll be the first time in our history.
Yeah.
But it's the nature of how things are going at the moment.
No, absolutely. And I just got a text actually from Julie, said it might be at Yukon because it's right there near them. So
Right.
we'll see. So like we said, if there's if we have people in the area or if we have MIBs in the area or something, there's a chance that we have a presence. It may not be an official like booth or anything like that, but we may have events running or something like that.
We
So
have
keep an eye out for that.
We have staff in Washington, in Calgary, in Wisconsin, in
Minnesota.
Amy's in Minnesota.
Amy's Wisconsin. Julia's Minnesota.
Michigan.
I'm always sorry, Julie.
Yeah. So we're spread out, but as a company, we are spread out quite a bit. So local conventions, if you submit something through the webpage and it comes up in an area where Julie and I can talk about it and say, hey, I plan on RVing through there. I can go to there.
Yeah.
Or she's within an hour's drive. Yeah, we may attend.
Yeah. I think that's all we got right now. I believe we didn't see any on YouTube. I think Twitch, we got all the comments. I think that's all the questions we had. Is there anything you wanted to close out on there? Any last words, as it were?
Last words. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the job. I'm not overwhelmed yet, but I don't know that won't get there.
Sure.
It's just the nature of the beast, trying to do 2 or 3. The big test will be if I survive Gen Con and Origins 2 weeks after while being on the road.
It's a murderer's row of conventions. For those of you that have not been to both conventions or don't usually have to worry about both of those conventions at the same time, that even at half capacity on both of them, Gen Con and Origins they're tough when they're a month apart.
Yeah.
And that's what they normally are. They're about a month apart. Having them 2 weeks apart, and then PAX is really close. Well, if we were doing PAX for some companies, like they're talking 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Like it's gonna be bad enough doing
and
those
it's
2
coast
weeks.
to coast at that point.
It's
if
brutal.
you're going from Seattle to Indianapolis to Columbus, oh my word,
It's really bad.
Yeah,
It's really bad. But it's not the conventions. I mean, these conventions are planning them at when they can, where they can. They had to pick these times and spots way earlier this year or at the end of last year if they thought things were going to reopen. And at that point, they couldn't pick it too early because if they pick it too early, they're having to shut down again. We didn't know the efficacy and all that of these of our
18
antiviruses.
months. 18 months of backlog.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if venue or even if they're annual events, and you discount the fact that we're not worried about this one anymore. We're just this last one that we did. You still have 18 months worth of non-annualized events that are vying for those spaces.
Yeah, and they're having to pick the same slots. These other
Yeah.
conventions that we're running, because these towns are running these convention centers by running lots of events. You got wedding conventions, all sorts of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if you walk out of Gen Con and there's another one just moving directly in that day or something. It's going to be interesting.
My understanding is, even though we're at half attendance for these events, we're still using the same physical space. So Gen Con is all of Indianapolis. Origins is most, if not all, of the Columbus Convention Center. But, if these events are at half capacity, they may be trying to put in other events side by side with them.
Sure.
And so we won't know that until we get there.
Yeah, we'll have to find out. This is just there's still a lot of variables, of course, but as you can see, we do have plans. We're working on it. Hopefully, hopefully it all works out. Eric's going to do the best he can with the information that we've been given by these conventions. Hopefully, we get booth numbers. That'd be nice.
Sooner or later.
But if you have plans on making it out to these conventions, definitely hit us up. We'll have a Daily Illuminator post with the list of all the conventions we're going to in the future, and we'll make sure if we have any new ones to add or anything like that going forward, we'll definitely add them to that list. Keep an eye out for that. But Eric, I want to thank you for joining us for this one. We'll have to have you on again at some point. Oh, yeah, good point. I have not been shaking hands too. Actually, I was like, oh God, what do I do?
With family events,
yeah.
I've just started hugging again, and I don't know, for those that know me, and knew me
It's
at
tough.
Broncos,
Same.
that was the de facto, and that's not the norm anymore.
Not anymore. But hope you guys got a lot of information from that. Definitely check us out at cons if you can, and even if you can't be there physically, keep an eye out for the digital elements that we have going on. Plus, obviously, FNORDCon next year and virtual FNORDCon. We want to keep everybody involved as much as possible. Check out that Kickstarter that we linked before. We've got a lot of people working really hard to make that happen. It's open for a few more days. And if you missed it, we did an interview with Sean Punch last week. Check that out.
Go back and check that one. That was good.
Great. He had a lot of cool information. Teased a lot of the stuff that we're already unlocking now, which is great. And I think there's still some secrets. So there were already surprises that popped up for me. I was like, oh, that didn't know that. He didn't even tell me about that. So really excited about that. That's only open for a few more days. But I want to make sure you guys have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.
Later all.